Whether it's your custom to join us every morning, or perhaps in the middle of the day, or even at night before you retire for the evening, whatever your custom is, I'm glad that you do it and that you've joined us again today for Devotions with Brother Aaron. I've entitled today's devotion, We're Not Blind. There's an old saying that states, reality is what it is perceived to be. Very simply, this means doesn't matter what the facts are, truth or reality then becomes what we perceive them to be, right or wrong. Some time ago, I was poignantly reminded of this fact. Being a preacher, I've done more than my fair share of funerals, and I don't mind doing funerals. It's weddings that I despise. Another devotion for another day. Someone, though, once asked me why I felt that way. I told them that it was because when I'm doing a funeral, I'm getting somebody out of life's troubles, trials, and sorrows. However, when I perform a wedding, the troubles, trials, and sorrows are just starting. But again, that's another devotion for another day. And y'all know I'm being facetious, of course. Recently, I was called upon to do a funeral. As is my custom, I met with the family before the funeral and asked them to share things about their dearly departed loved one that they would like for me to weave into my sermon. I told them it could be serious stories, funny stories, favorite Bible verses, or just anything they wanted. They began to share. Finally, somebody spoke up and said, "Somebody tell him the story about her brother putting her head under the water in the bathtub." Quite naturally, this piqued my curiosity. Somebody began telling me how the dearly departed and her family were raised in the country. Of course, this was years ago, so there weren't any modern-day amenities like swimming pools. If you wanted to go swimming in the summertime, it meant taking a trip to the lake or to the swimming hole. For them, it was the lake. The dearly departed loved going swimming with her brothers and sisters, but she had a phobia about putting her head under the water. It just wasn't going to happen. So her loving older brother devised a plan to help her overcome her phobia. One night, he and the other siblings filled the bathtub with water. They eased their baby sister into the bathtub, and the older brother began to slowly and lovingly let her head back into the water. His thought was that if he could calm her fear of having her head under the water by using the safe confines of their bathtub, then the lake would be a cinch. Did I mention it was night? Anyway, he gently and lovingly lowered her head into the water. It was almost like a preacher immersing a baptismal candidate into the baptismal waters. However, inexplicably, at the very instant her head went under the water, there was a power failure and all the lights went out. It was pitch dark in the bathroom. As her brother brought her up, she opened her eyes to total darkness. Terrified, she began to scream, "Oh no, I'm blind! I'm blind!" I love telling that story. It's funny to me. Now, was she blind? No, of course not. But from her point of view, yeah, she was blind. She didn't have all the facts. All she knew was she didn't like putting her head underwater to begin with. Her brother talked her into doing so. It was light when her head went under the water, and it was dark when she came up. So, from her point of view, yeah, she was blind. 1 Corinthians 13:12 states, "Now we see through a glass darkly." That means that just as the light went out on this little girl, sometimes the circumstances in our lives change and we have no clue what happened. Unfortunately, too often our view of reality is based more on our lack of facts than our knowledge of them. We trust our senses, what we can see, smell, touch, taste, or hear, instead of having faith in God that He is in control of all things. Reality is what it is perceived to be. So let's start making it a habit to perceive in our hearts that even when we cannot see, if we have faith, we are not blind. Why? Because we see through the eyes of faith. And as long as we can see God through faith, that's all we need. We're not blind. Lord, I believe there may be someone hearing this devotion today, God, that the circumstances in their lives have changed, and Lord, they don't know what reality is, and they feel blinded, Lord. They can't see the way out. God, would you help them through the eyes of faith to realize they're not blind, that you see before they see, you go ahead of them, and you, Lord, make a way where there is no way. God, help us to perceive that the only reality that matters is that you are real to us and you love us. And God, you'll make a way. And I ask this in your name. Amen.